Hello, this is Gary Pig Gold, and I thought I'd tell you all about how I came to create and publish the first ever independently produced music fanzine in all of Canada. Or maybe it was the second or even third ever, depending on whose Wikipedia page you're reading. You know, I was very lucky to have grown up in a very musical household here in the Toronto suburbs, where, on the 9th of February, 1964, I saw a certain rock and roll band on The Ed Sullivan Show. And like countless tens of thousands of other wee, young knuckle heads that night, I immediately put down my hockey stick and started bugging Mom and Dad to get me a guitar. In the meantime, I used one of my dad's old tennis rackets to pretend I was John Lennon with his Rickenbacker. And when I wasn't listening to music or making racket on the real guitar I finally got, I loved to read and write. Sometimes I would even write my own stories. In fact, my very first grade report card from Canali Public School said that Gary, and I quote, writes interesting stories. I was also the first kid sent home from that school for having long hair and wearing nothing but black turtleneck sweaters to class every single day. All just because I thought I was Ilya Kuryakin from The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Anyways, I guess it was only kind of natural that I combine my two passions and start to write interesting stories about music. So, by the time I had started high school, I was compiling little charts of whatever records I was listening to that week, typing them up 3 to each sheet of legal-size foolscap, using carbon paper to make 3 copies, so that I'd end up with 9 charts at a time, and these I would cut out and hand out to friends and anyone else I thought would look cool up and down the hallways of Port Credit Secondary School. I also made a little 16mm spectacular, which won an award at the local film festival and was chosen to be aired on the PBS television station over the border there in Buffalo, New York. But due to what was decided was its scandalous nature, before the film could be broadcast, I was advised that I had to credit it instead to a fictitious director, which is where the name Gary Pig came from. No, really, I mean, could I make this stuff up? At this time, I was also exchanging letters. Yes, this was back in prehistoric times when people actually hand-wrote letters, with my best pal Doug, who spent summers working at a faraway day camp. My letters to Doug I called Pig Papers. A couple of years after all this, I was enrolled in media arts studies at York University, but was instead spending much more time hanging out in all the big Toronto record stores. In one of those one day, I met a fellow music fanatic named John, who, it turned out, happened to be an absolutely brilliant photographer and graphic art designer. Soon afterwards, John and I, anyway anyhow, found ourselves lined up overnight outside in the rain and the slush to buy advance tickets to a concert by The Who. And feeling rightfully cheated that, after all of our hours spent lying in the rain and the slush, we only ended up with real crappy tickets, we decided to print up an angry little broadside to expose what we thought was this seamy, cheating secret perpetrated upon loyal Who fans by the nasty Canadian rock and roll business. Under John's expert direction, however, our manifesto soon turned into an actual 28-page, pretty glossy magazine, which, disguised as an official tour program, we sold out in the street outside Maple Leaf Gardens on the night of the Who concert. That was Pig Paper number 1, the first Pig Paper ever made available to the public at large. The second one was when the next coolest band played Toronto a year or so later, the Kinks. A copy of that Pig paper was actually picked up off the floor after that concert and was written up in no less than the Globe and Mail, Canada's national newspaper. Then, by the time none other than the Ramones came to town, the Pig paper was there to interview them too, down in the basement, between shows, in between all the beer bottles and empty pizza cartons. You see, just as those Beatles had a dozen years before, Johnny, Joey, Dee Dee, and Tommy kick-started a much-needed musical renaissance the world over, and the Pig paper did its utmost to chronicle all these great new sounds screeching around, whilst also finding time and column space to pant and rant all over all of our favorites from yesteryear too, from Elvis and Chuck and Buddy Holly to Herman's Hermits, the Hollies, and of course the Dave Clark 5. In fact, I even got to hang out with Dennis Wilson one afternoon.
Gary Pig Gold, you're a wise, brilliant man. You're an English language writer. You got the Pig paper. It's a very good paper. You're a talented man. Gary Pig Gold, Gary Pig Gold, you're the best man in the whole wide world. Gary Pig Gold, you're a talented dude. You're a rock and roll man. You're a good journalistic writer. Gary Pig Gold, I like you very, very much because you know so much stuff about so much stuff. You're a very smart man. Oh yeah, Gary Pig.
Now, it wasn't very easy to do at all back in those primordial pre-internet days, believe you me, but by making contact and swapping issues with fellow fanzine makers around the globe, the Pig paper was, quicker than you could say DIY, soon on sale in New York, Los Angeles, London, and quite a few points in between. It was even getting quite a lot of press, some praise even. I even got hooked up with the artist formerly known as Johnny Rotten. And the Pig paper soon led to Pig Records, and also, in what little spare time I could find, my syndicated all over the place PIGSHIT column, which I wrote regularly for lots of other zines, and which I'm still busy writing over a half century later every single month all over the www. Along the way, I even got to edit some books and get a record I produced released in what used to be the Soviet Union. Not bad, I guess, for this little piggy who started out cutting and pasting, literally, on the floor of his parents' basement, simply trying to cross Mad Magazine with Cream Magazine, then trying to get it into the right hands and eyes wherever and however I could. Still, looking back on it all, I can't help but agree with my dear friend Freddie Pompey, guitarist extraordinaire of the incredible Vile Tones, who way back in the summer of hate probably hit the nail right in its head better than anyone ever did when he called the Pig paper the best science fiction magazine he'd ever read. I couldn't agree more. So thank you for watching and for reading, and I promise that if you keep reading, I'll keep writing.